was in like a restaurant or something. I was in this like tea shop, and I just yelled, "Change it, please!"
So this is a good example of how you can never ever over communicate when it comes to working on a creative project.
The worst part was because I had been at school, we often are like told or just like I just think when working with other creatives, as him being a penciler and an inker, I was like taking his word a bit like law.
Sure.
Yes. I was like, I kind of had the impression like as a colorist, just be subtly in there, make him look good. And so I didn't erase them, and Carrie was like, "Why the hell is she not erasing them?" There would be the lightning there, and then the little Pikachus, which was like, I kept like, I don't want to erase them so bad, but I didn't get his word on it yet.
Then I had to kind of
bully
you a little bit.
Well, it was kind of like with you and Dan. You didn't want to edit that script part.
Yeah.
You wanted his permission first.
Yeah.
And so this looks like you have to give the artist a chance to fix their word, to touch their word. No one touches.
What if he
no
really
one over
meant
touches
that?
somebody.
At least give them
I
a
need
chance.
another beer if I really need.
At least give them a chance to rationalize.
Yeah.
Well, what was your point behind this?
Yeah.
And then if it is like a good point, then sure, okay, yeah. If it was like stupid, then
or he didn't mean to.
Yeah.
That was an oversight and so on.
So on the pages of the main storyline, I'm always on GChat with Alan and Carrie, and I'm lettering, and I'll come across a piece of dialogue that doesn't seem right, and I'll bring it up to Carrie or Alan, and we'll just have a 10-minute discussion on just that one line.
Yeah, there's been and honestly, there's been a couple times where that's actually really helped us because. Being a writer, one of the things I like to do is the fact that, I'm a writer and I'm writing this stuff and it's going to be awesome and people are totally going to get this this deep meaning and metaphor that I have here. And then I'm scared that they won't, and then I'm like, okay, I got to make it more obvious. And then there's times where, Havana and Alan will come, stop it. Just leave it.
You made your point.
You made your point. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
every writer needs an editor.
Yeah. And Havana and Alan are really my editors when it comes down to that. I mean, and honestly, Jamel has also done that because whenever I write a script, because it's meant for animation and what I want it to be is for animation, I actually get a whole group of friends together, and when I have the script where I want it, we read it aloud. Yeah. So we have Jamel, playing characters. We have a fan.
Yeah, meet together. You actually meet.
We meet and we go through and we just read it aloud. And
we just act out the scene verbally.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you need that voiceover guy.
Yeah. Well,
I'm messing with you.
But it's nice just to have that because when you hear it aloud, you can definitely.
It's different.
It's so different because
of course,
you can hear. Where the problems are, or you can see where
that has no
there's no flow, or if a person...
there've been a couple times is she monologuing here like a villain?
Yeah,
a super villain.
She's telling on herself. Yeah,
exactly. You got me monologuing, but
you gotta keep that
out. But you guys are really, really lucky and may not even realize it that you get to work together like this because in mainstream comics. Working for Marvel and DC and whatnot, most of the experiences I had is I'd get hired by the editor or I'd sell the editor a concept. I would do a script, send that in, and then 6 months to a year later, a comic book comes out. And that's the next time I see anything to do with it.
Wow.
I don't... sometimes I know the artist or artists. Most of the time I don't.
You're working in silos.
Yeah. A lot of the time the penciler isn't in the same city as the inker or as the colorist. And lettering these days, there are these lettering houses. It's like this. I've never been to one, and I don't know what they're like. I like to imagine that they're like
piles of letters all over,
like a barracks, or like the place where the Chinese gold farmers in World of Warcraft. Like all these letterers in their chained to their desks.
Gutenberg.
But these guys and girls can letter. And they have to do, I don't even know, 8 or 10 comics, 8 or 10 full-length issues a day.
Yeah.
You know, they make their money on volume.
Volume of letters, yeah.
And so, you know, if you guys hadn't known each other and hadn't had the chance to communicate, well, there'd be Pikachu tales there.
Yep.
And depending on how motivated the editor was, the typos that I put in would have stayed. That repeated character beat would have just been there like that. You know, these mistakes get through, and then all our names are right there on the finished product.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so, you know, working together in what amounts to a studio environment on a project like this is so helpful.
Yeah. And again, it just boils down to that concept of over-communicating.
Make art with your friends.
And so that's one benefit of...
I don't agree with that.
We kind of friends. Well, I think I wanted to say something about that is that that's when you want to work for free because it's a great experience. But even though there will be rewards later, I'm just saying, like, right at this moment, you don't. You look at it as not getting something right away. But the communication thing is very important, no matter in what situation you're in any creative field. And I think that's why some creative people fall out, that you don't hear from the artists, you don't hear, you know. And I organize art shows, and like that's the hardest thing to get artists. To get you're wrangling artists, you're creative people who think creatively and don't know about handling their life properly, and following through on certain things, or just giving back an answer.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, are you really committed? Are you really in on this? You know, and I can imagine that y'all working together, if you see Dan's name pop up on your phone, you're picking it up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're expecting to hear something at any time from any one person in your team, and it doesn't matter time of day. Or, you know,
I mean, there's also that level of friendship there, so you have that camaraderie. So if Dan calls, I'm like, this could have something to do with Kamikaze, or it could be something that, you know, he got a movie deal and he wants to spread the news and be like, yay, with somebody. And I want to do that with my friends. So, I mean...
If that happens, you will all get a call.
Okay.
Awesome. You can call me, but give me a bag of money. Get a bag of money?
I can't promise the bag of money, but I will be calling everyone I've ever met.
All right, there you go. And
I got a movie deal. I'm doing a movie.
Some calls are going to be for congratulations. Some going to be like, sucker. Take that. Nice.
Yeah, just to add to Carrie's point, I think it is important for any business, not just creative, but it's important for any business to create that culture within the people working on whatever you're working on, because you never want to drive people away. You want to make it a fun thing, because I mean, as you said, Dan, it takes a lot of work. You might as well make it fun and enjoyable while you're doing it.
And this is why feeding people is so important.
Well, and Carrie, I don't think you understand how important a role you're playing here too, because as the de facto editor, you know, you're the captain of the ship.
Pretty much.
And if you have a bad editor or a bad leader on any creative project, which I have had more than I'd care to admit, it'll sap the morale.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, you'll stop caring about the product.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like Alan and I, we've individually had times where we are just kind of down in the dumps, and but I think like the culture that we try to maintain for the Kamikaze team, it keeps you up there. Like, and even if you feel crappy, you're still gonna show up and do the work. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, and that, again, I think that's why, you know, really caring about the people that you work with is so important. Because if, you know, Havana tells me that she's having a bad day, I'm telling her, okay, I haven't decided what we're going to make for dinner tonight. So what would you like? Do you want something warm? Do you want something, you know, that makes you feel good? Do you want the favorite thing that I make that, you know, so you have something to look forward to when you get there? Or, you know, just knowing that she's had a bad day and then bringing, you know, making a cup of tea, having tea ready for her, or if she's, you know, sick, having some vitamin C ready for her. I mean, some people might be like, oh, you're just a mom or whatever, but to me it's like, that's actually caring for somebody and showing you that you care.
Right.
And I care for every one of these people on my team. And I think...
Well, there's like two different kinds of film directors. There's the kind that, like Ron Howard, where everyone loves him, and everyone does the best they can because they want to please Ron, because they want him to be happy. Mm-hmm. And then there's the kind that terrifies everyone who works for him, like Stanley Kubrick. Both are valid techniques.
Yep.
But what you don't want to have is the third kind where the editor or the project lead just checks out.
Yeah.
I've actually had an editor. I got some art from the artist that I didn't really know and wasn't anywhere near close to, and I called up the editor and said, this isn't what the script says. Mm-hmm. It's kind of important that this thing happen here and this thing doesn't happen here. Mm-hmm. And the editor said, and I quote, "Give it up, Dan. This project is a lost cause."
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. We're going to print.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna buy it or read it.
That's correct.
We're going to print.
and no one did.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Wow.
So
that's harsh, dude. Ow.
Yeah. So I think it's in all of this, each one of you have dedicated and worked hard to become who you are, so that you get the opportunity to work with someone who also works hard and is dedicated, and so that's something that's why we say to up and coming artists, be committed, because then you'll find opportunities to work with other committed people. Mm-hmm. If you're half-assed, then you will keep coming across half-assed stuff.
Yeah. Don't half-ass it, whole-ass it.
Yeah, that's what Ron. What is
Ron Swanson?
Yeah, that's right. I'm working on a painting for my wife, and that's my wife's hero, and that's her favorite quote. Man, don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing.
So true.
Yeah. Sure. So I'm doing a portrait. All right, so man, there's so much stuff I want to ask. We're gonna go back to the chronology of the story because I know this is a long interview, and it's okay because people will want to listen to all of it. I want to ask a question because I'm a novice. What's a character beat?
Character beats are like the major points of the story. Like in Star Wars, the first ever Star Wars movie. Mm-hmm. When Luke comes home and sees Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru dead.
Spoilers, man.
Story beat.
Spoilers. She crazy.
Star Wars beat.
That's a beat. Okay.
Yeah, that's a beat. Think of it like a lot of Doctor Who fans kind of get it with this. It's like in Doctor Who they talk about fixed points in time. Like their time is
something that really happens that's dramatical. I've heard of the +1 and -1 when it comes to writing. Like there's,
I haven't. What is that?
Yeah.
Like something happens, and so the character, of course, you got the story arc, but the character has to learn something in story arc. But the character goes through a situation where they come ahead. You see the character, you feel good for the character because moving ahead, and then they'll take a loss. Something bad happens, or they make a wrong decision, and that's a -1. And then of course you want to give the reader a chance to keep rooting for the character, and you got to make sure the character gets a +1 or something in the story. Yeah. I've heard it told that way. I don't know if that's
a very simple way to do it, but I think it gets across the idea. And really, when you're coming to character beats, you're looking at these fixed points that have to happen, and things that happen in between. Can really be fluid, and I think that's where a lot of writing creativity comes from. Mm-hmm. Is where you have
feel
these.
Forced.
Well, sometimes it can feel forced, but it's also where you get your time to just let it out. It's not okay. This is the beat. I have point A and point C. Mm-hmm. What goes on in B? I don't know. Let's see. And you get the chance to really just play with the characters, have them talk to you, and that might sound insane.
It sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy, but
that's how it works,
there is points where you have characters and they just talk.
And you have to look at these characters as they're real people. They exist somewhere. Mm-hmm. They have an identity.
Yeah, and there's also the points where I grew up with a little bit of background in theater, so going into that actor's mode of saying, okay, this is what this person is going through right now. How would that make me feel? Mm-hmm. And knowing what I know about the character, how does that make that character feel?
I got it.
And it's a level of trying to empathize with somebody that doesn't even exist, and doesn't exist. But it's
so to give an example of to illustrate Carrie's point.
Yeah.
during the first year that I met her, I realized, whoa, she is really invested in Kamikaze.